get yourself a brew, because I need to offload. I need to self-project. I need to use this superpower that is my voice, because there's so much that is happening in my energetically led world. But again, on the surface, it appears like nothing. But there is just so much, and I've just got to start to speak, because there's changes. I've changed. I'm a different frequency. I'm a different woman to who I was when I last recorded one of these. It's been a lot. It's been a lot. So go grab yourself a brew, pause me, go grab yourself a brew, and come back and just tune in. Just take a deep breath and just use this, as I ask you to use all of my videos, as an opportunity to hear a story being told, to hear someone else's story, someone else's truth. And while hearing that, tune into yourself and listen to your own body to hear what is truth for you too. So, I'm Gail. I am the energy-led woman. Probably not the only energy-led woman out there, but you know, that's what I've coined myself as for here on YouTube. Yeah, and this is, well, I used to do weekly reflections. I guess it's a weekly reflection. It is a Friday. But things are shifting, things are moving. So it's really to just catch you up on my life, my world, my energy-led world, and what the hell is going on, because it's been crazy. So I don't even know where to start. So where do I even start? I've been away. I've been on holiday. I've been to Mexico for 10 days, which was amazing. I got back probably about 10 days ago. And that holiday did something. And the stuff that it did is still there. It's still around. I haven't anchored it in yet. And I felt, should we say, unwell. There's been symptoms since I've come back that I can't quite get hold of. So that's important to talk about. But the jet lag was a whole thing. Going straight back into work was a whole thing. I'm hoping this weekend I'm going to kind of properly settle down again. But there has been a whole thing. So there's going to be bigger videos around this, because there's going to be deep dives, because there really has to be deep dives. Because I need to settle this down. I need to embody this. I need to work out what is going on. So obviously there was tiredness, there was jet lag. So, and there's also a change in frequency, a big, huge change in frequency. And remember, our bodies are all based on frequency. So, you know, Mexico, the frequency in Mexico, vibrancy, brightness, you know, tropical birds, you know, the dawn chorus is different in Mexico to it is in England, you know. Sea air, no pressures apart from like getting to the evening meal on time, you know. I was mostly laid down all day, you know. I was laid on a sunbed all day around the pool, you know, mostly laid down all day. And then the British frequency, when I've come back home, it's a different brightness, it's a different colour scheme. So that's a different frequency straight away, you know. I'm back in the hustle. There's that hustle mode, because I've got to get things done. I've got to open the laptop at a certain time. We've got to have tea at a certain time, because we have to go to bed at a certain time, because we have to get up at a certain time. You know, all that kind of stuff, you know. I'm rarely laid down. I'm only laid down at night time nowadays, you know, now that I've not got a sunbed around a pool. So there's all this kind of like massive stuff that shifts and changes, and your body has to recalibrate and it has to reset all of those things. Less of an impact when you go out there, because you can lay down all day. So therefore you're recalibrating, but when you come back home, you're doing. And so that recalibration isn't as straightforward. And I've written down here, I've got all my notes in front of me because it's just going to help me chat through this. And like I say, I think I need to do a deeper dive on the holiday. I feel like there's videos that are just on the tip of my tongue, but I just need to process the whole thing a little bit more. But I've put, it's kind of like you disconnected from yourself. You went and lived in another realm for 10 days, and now you need to reconnect to yourself, to this life. Have you given yourself a chance to do that? That's what I've kind of written. So, you know, wherever there is a frequency change, you have to come back to you. You have to ground into who you are. So what I was thinking about then is that the frequency of the woman who I was before Mexico and the frequency of the woman after Mexico is different, because that woman didn't experience all this stuff. And we do a calibration every day. Your frequency shifts and moves every single day because you experience things that change your beliefs, that change your view of the world, your perspective of the world, how the rules in your world work. And so we're constantly shifting and moving frequency anyway. But when you've been in a different realm and you've seen how a different realm works, i.e. Mexico, you know, you come back and you've got a whole boatload of different experiences and things that happen that your frequency is just off for who you were before. And whenever I have a frequency shift, the first thing I always do is I always go back to who am I? And I start there. Who am I? And I let whatever flows from that come out. And I think in that process of who am I realised that I haven't been living as who I am, if that makes sense. So what I mean by that is, like, if I look back over the last 10 days of being back from holiday, who am I? Who have I been? Well, everything has been about ease. So it's been supermarket foods, it's been sleeping in, it's been not moving, it's been very focused on work, just getting the work done, very focused on surviving the day. And if that's who I have been since I got back from my holiday, which is a certain frequency that I am giving off, that does not in any way, shape or form line up to who I actually am. So there's a whole misalignment there as well. So there's all this stuff going on, guys, all this stuff going on. And then as I'm starting to understand who I am, I'm realizing who I haven't been, I'm realizing what frequency I've been living on, and I'm realizing that actually this is where I need to embody Mexico. I feel like I'm not grounded on the earth right now. I feel like I'm somehow floating around. I feel like I need to ground myself. So I need to embody Mexico. I need to ground myself in who I am. I need to allow that to ripple out from there. So my body, so since I've come back from holiday, I've mentioned to you that I was jet lagged and stuff. There was a whole thing. So Mexico is 6 hours behind the UK. So just by flying home, you lose 6 hours. So I've lost 6 hours. It's an overnight flight. So you're trying to sleep on the flight. I think I got about 40 minutes out of a whole 10-hour flight. We landed at 7 o'clock in the morning in the UK. And then we had a five-hour drive after we'd got through the airport and everything to get home. Got home about 3:30, I think it was, and in the afternoon, and then was working at 9 o'clock the next morning. So, sorry, at 8 o'clock the next morning. So, that was exhausting. And from there, I was having symptoms from my body that I thought was linked to the jet lag, but it seems to not be. So, my body is sending me a lot of signals right now. And those signals are a little bit, so every piece of information, every piece of thing that you feel, whether it be emotionally, whether it be physically, everything that you feel is giving you data. It's giving you information. So just as in the same way as like emotions, in the same way as anything, what I'm feeling, the symptoms that I'm feeling in my body are giving me a sat nav, a guidance system to what I need to do. So, for example, if I'm feeling like dizzy, okay, what is that asking of me? What is that telling me? You know, dizziness, for example, is linked to ascension symptoms. It's linked to frequencies being misaligned, you know? And so there's a lot of symptoms coming through at the moment for me that are telling me, giving me guidance as to what pathway I need to be on and where I need to go and what I need to bring into my life and what I need to release from my life. And with that whole process, there was this, the only way I can describe it is like that. That's the only way I can describe it. I feel like my energy has just gone and it's just come all the way back into me. And it's almost at the point where I don't want to speak to anyone outside of my circle. So when I say my circle, I'm talking my husband, I'm talking my mum, talking, parents, and very trusted friends. I don't want to speak to anyone. And with that came this energy of not, like, I'm usually reasonably active on my stories on Instagram, and I didn't want to speak. There was a couple of mornings where I woke up and I was like, come on, let's speak, because it's my superpower. And so I did. And then literally had that feeling with my energy again. And this is my line 2 coming out, my human design line 2. It's the Hermit. I've got to go inwards because I've got to focus on this information that's coming through me right now. I've got to focus on that. I can't focus on anybody else's energy, apart from those ultimately close to me. I can't focus on like giving anything to anyone because I've got to turn that attention and that energy into myself and follow this guidance and follow what's coming through. And of course, if I carry on with what I am doing or what I was doing before I went on holiday, I can't focus that energy in on me because I'm going to be diluting it. I'm going to be sharing it out. And so that's come through really, really clearly. Now, with that, there has come through some shifts. And I think I will forever be shifting my platforms and what I offer. No, what I express into the world through this kind of digital medium until I actually get it where it is totally in alignment. And it's interesting because I kind of feel like I could be there now because I've realized that my energy has gone from Facebook. I don't want to be on Facebook. I don't want to be on that level of connection with people right now. My energy has gone from TikTok. I did start trying to do some videos on TikTok, just wanting to record the thoughts that were in my head. And so I started doing like little quick videos on TikTok, got through 3 of them before my energy went, nope. And so that left me with Instagram and YouTube. And I feel very compartmentalized I like to focus on different things, and I'm not a manifesting generator. I focus on one thing at a time. And that doesn't necessarily mean that I don't focus on all of the things in a week, but it means that I focus on one thing at a time. And something just came through to me when I was sat journaling one morning. It was like, you need to treat your Instagram like project grids. They're your project grids. They're your lab notes. They're your experiment notes. So I do have a grid for pretty much every area of my life. So I have a wealth one. Haven't started working in that yet. Got a health one. Clearly that's the focus right now. I've got a seasonal living one, which I haven't picked up on that stuff for a little while. I've let that slip, that knowing what's going on in the seasons, because it was taking up too much of my headspace, that again, I wasn't allowing myself to have the time to tune into myself because I was too busy kind of like deciphering this and deciphering that. So I've got that. I've got a self-care one, which is really important to me. I've got a food one, which is just where I want to keep my recipes and my cycles around food. And then I've got my main one, which is just the one that's about myself and what am I, that it's kind of like, I keep my energy things, energy casting, God, I couldn't think of the word. Keep my energy casting on there, and that is where I embody who I am. I create my world there. So that's what that one's about. Anyway. And through that whole process, I realized that I need this space. I need this space to talk, and I need this space to self-project. And when I do that every morning, I feel so much more aligned, so much more in my power. So from there, this whole organic kind of place kind of set up. And the idea really is really honing in on, what do I need for me to be in my alignment and in my power? And trusting that when I am speaking from this place and speaking about my stories, my experience, my experiments, my world, my energetically led life, when I'm speaking about that if you find it, something in that is going to speak to you. And that is a byproduct of who I am. And whenever I look into my human design is always, sometimes I wrote this down one day, sometimes I feel like my human design is so selfish because it is all about me. And I have to trust that as I talk about my experiences, as I tell my stories, there's a whole storytelling thread in my human design, that it's none of my business what other people get from it, but I can trust that other people will get something from it. Does that make sense? Probably not, because we are all very individual, and it makes sense to me when I say it. So I guess this is an opportunity really for me to just embody that and to just reiterate that what I express is predominantly for me to express it. You imagine just the energy of what has come out of me just on this video for the last 18 minutes. If I was holding that into my body, what's that clogging up? What's that weighing down? Whereas by just speaking it, I'm just getting it out. I'm not holding on to it anymore. It's not weighing me down. It's not clogging me up. There's a flow. This energy has come to me. It's brewed within me. It's absorbed from everything around us, and now I'm getting it out. But a byproduct of that is that you will, if you're listening to this, if you're enjoying this, if you're resonating with it, some of this, you might be like, yes, I get that. Some of this, you might be like, that's absolutely not the way that I feel, and that's showing you who you are. So that's the power in this kind of thing, I talk, I share. If you resonate and you're like, yes, that's a piece of me, I see myself in that, great. But then the other side is, that is absolutely not a piece of me. And through that, you identify who you are too. And you identify the rules and the beliefs and the conditions that are in your own world. So, as I say, my body is giving me signals. I will talk about that. Right at the moment, I'm not there. Right at the moment, I am not listening to these signals. I am aware of them. I am like taking the data and kind of going, well, what does that mean? What's that about? What's that showing me? So I'm still working within it. I'm not there yet. I'm not there yet. I'm not ready to talk about it. It might come out as I start doing these in a more of a daily basis, because that is my intention. My intention is to press record on a video every single morning, potentially while I'm doing my hair and makeup. I'm not sure. Not my hair, obviously, that could be noisy. While I'm doing my skincare and makeup, a bit like what I used to do back in the old days when I used to be like a unique presenter. I used to put my makeup on and talk about something that was on my mind. And I feel like that moment of applying makeup and stuff, because I'm doing something with my hands, because I'm not I seem to channel from my G center more. So, and that is where my speaking voice comes from in my human design. Anyway, ramble. I am very aware that I do ramble quite a lot when I'm doing these, but again, I went through, so the reason there hasn't been a weekly reflection for a long time is because I went through a stage of, how on earth are these valuable? How on earth can anybody gain anything from these? And interestingly, while I was on a holiday, someone, and if you are that someone, thank you so much, because you brought me back to this. Someone commented and said how, on an old one, just how good it was to just listen to someone telling their story without really, I don't think it was, actually I'm putting words in her mouth, but you know, just how good it was, how nice it was to just watch a video where it was just someone just talking naturally and it not being, I feel like I want to say like there's no agenda behind it. I don't know if that's what she was meaning, but that seems to be coming through right now. I don't have an agenda. My agenda is to speak. My agenda is to express what energy is building up in my G center. My agenda isn't anything more than that. And if one person hears this and gets something from it, then that's great. But if nobody does either, then it's served my purpose. My purpose is to get this off my G center. Anyway, and to hear my truth as I do it. So, wow, this is a lot, isn't it? So, the other thing that really came through for me, or has been coming through for me, is this feeling of just wanting to be quiet and still. And I don't know if that's the tiredness. You know, there's been a lot of movement during that kind of like 2 weeks around Mexico, you know, a lot of preparing for travel, a lot of being in a different place, exploring, you know, getting used to a new environment, doing all the things and then traveling home. So there's been a lot of movement. So maybe my body's going, let's just be still and let's just be quiet to recover from that. Maybe it's a recovery thing. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's actually a thing. And then that makes me kind of question it, because I'm like, but it's not the season to be still and quiet. We're in growth season, we're in building season, we're in, you know, spring, summer. And then I kind of go, yeah, but I'm not a builder. I'm not a manager. You know? I'm kind of the lighthouse, right? The lighthouse is still. The lighthouse doesn't, I don't know. I'm still feeling into that. But there is this feeling of just wanting to be quiet and still. And in the midst of work the other day, it was chucking it down outside, horrible weather, big storm, kind of like stormy day. And I had my lunch, and I was cooking my lunch, and while I was waiting for my lunch to sort itself out, I just stood and looked out of the window. And it was raining, and there was the big juicy raindrops, and it was grey. And I just stood and watched it. Stood. And decided that I could stand there for as long as I wanted to. And I let go of everything, you know? No pressure, no nothing, the only pressure, not pressure. The only thing that I had to do in that moment was to just stand and watch the rain. And I found myself immediately wanting to share that moment. So I shared a quick story onto my Instagram stories, and it was like, I let the words just come through to me, and the words were along the lines of, this is life. This is life. This, when I'm standing still and I'm watching nature and I'm watching the rain and I'm watching the wind move the leaves around, and there's some birds that are desperately flying back to their tree so that they can take cover from this storm that just suddenly came down, and this is life. not this crazy life that we've created for ourselves where we're running around after deadlines that aren't really, that are just made up by someone somewhere, and following the rules and hustling and in rush. The life is in that stillness. And I actually wrote, slow down your life and you'll see what I mean. And so there's this real pull to stillness. There's this real pull to inwards, and there's this real pull to stillness, which, while I'm feeling it, it isn't sitting right with me because it's spring. It's spring. It's not. I'm seasonal. I'm cyclical. I follow the seasons. But there's something just telling me that my growth this season will come from that stillness. And I don't know. Anyway. Throughout all this, the other things that have been coming through are, as I say, linked to my frequency. So I mentioned this earlier on. So, what frequency am I living on in any possible moment, in any possible day? And little things have just popped up in my head. And it's shown me that I'm not taking care of my frequency right now. I'm not transmitting a frequency that reflects what I want in my life. So an example might be, let's use health as the example. I'm telling you that there's symptoms, that my body is giving me symptoms, right? So that I can navigate a pathway to where I'm meant to be, health-wise. And if I am saying to myself all the time, I am unhealthy, I'm giving off that frequency. Not only am I giving off that frequency, I'm giving off an instruction to my body that I'm unhealthy, okay? However, it's interesting because these symptoms and the researching of these symptoms has given me my power back. Because now, it's not just that I'm unhealthy and it's the way it is. It's that my body is telling me where I need to go to get healthy. My body is telling me. So now I am conscious. I'm intentional. I'm in my power. I'm the person who can change this. So that frequency changes, because instead of being the, I'm just the unhealthy one, I'm just unhealthy. It's now, this is where I am, but I'm listening to my body and my body's telling me where to go. That's exciting, it's empowering, and my frequency's shifted. And things have shown up from a work perspective, a money perspective, a health perspective, a self perspective, having a tan that literally disappeared in 2 days. Going from kind of how healthy I felt I looked, because we always feel healthy with a tan, and you might be looking at me saying you've still got your tan, girl, but I compared to what I had, I haven't. If I want to keep up with my tan, i.e. doing the fake stuff, I've got to keep up with my self-care. I've got to keep up with my moisturising. I've got to keep up with my rituals, my scrubs, so there's a whole self-care thing coming through as well. And then I'm kind of being told that I'm back to basics again. And honestly, it's like this happens to me a lot. I have a frequency upgrade, but then I get smashed back down to basics. And the reason being is, the woman who I am now needs to rebuild her life from the bottom up with the beliefs, the rules, the conditions, the habits of the woman on the of the frequential level that I am now on. Does that make sense? And so a lot of the woman, I call it woman, some people call it witch. So a lot of the woman craft, not witchcraft, woman craft, because I don't know where I probably need to properly research where the word witch came from, but ultimately it's women. the tools, the things that are classed as witchcraft are things that women intuitively do. And intuitively, when you do those things as a woman, you tune into something, you get into alignment. I can't explain it, but there is something brewing in the background around that as well. So yeah, there's just a lot, guys. There's a lot. Yeah, there's a lot. I've got my scripting book out again. I'm gonna start scripting. That's really important to me, because if we're not scripting, then I don't understand how we can actually embody a frequency if we're not feeling what it feels like to live in that frequency. You know, how do you embody it when you're you know, when we talk about timeline shifting is moving frequencies, you know, quantum leaps, all that kind of stuff. It's all just moving frequencies. And you move frequency. One of the really kind of powerful ways of changing your frequency is scripting. So my scripting book's out. What was my seasonal cyclical notebook is out, and it is just turned into just utter chaos as I write notes about every single thing that comes through. The other thing that I'm very, very aware of right now as well is I need to slow down time. I don't have enough time in my day to do all this at the moment. And that's because time is going like that. So I really need to really focus on slowing down time and using my womancraft to do so that I can slow down time, so that I can make time for all this stuff in my day. Wow, that was a lot, wasn't it? And I probably haven't told you everything either. There are other things, you know, so many other things. I read Quicksilver before I went away, and I moved on to Brimstone while I was away. And while I wasn't quite in tune with Quicksilver, Brimstone, the pieces of Brimstone that in my mind reflect epigenetics blew my mind. So there's a video coming about that. Honestly, I really need to write down all these videos, because they're just gonna, I haven't got time. I need to slow down time. Maybe I need to do a video about slowing down time. Who the hell knows? Anyway, so I have finished my cup of tea, pretty much. It's pretty cold because I've been yakking on. Hopefully you've finished yours. And let's see where this takes us, because potentially this is daily videos from here. Because I've got to speak. I've so got to speak. And whenever I don't, I just lose myself. Got to speak. If there's any other self-projected projectors out there, I'd be really interested to see if you feel the same, because we're such a minority. Out there. And, you know, if human design teaches us anything at all, it teaches us that we are all so different. And, you know, you might be a self-projected projector and not have the same gates as me, so maybe you don't feel the same way as I do, you know? And maybe you don't need to speak in the same way I do, but honestly, that need to speak, and the more I get into a situation where I'm not speaking, the more I am out of my zone, out of my power, out of who I am. I'm not who I am. I don't know if that makes sense. It makes sense to me. That's all that matters, right? That's all that matters. So thank you guys if you've been here. Thank you for watching, listening, tuning in. It's been crazy. It's been a journey. And I still need to work out what the hell it all means and what I'm going to do about it and how I'm going to embody it. Well, I don't need to work it out. I just need to trust that it'll unfold as and when it should. But if I'm not speaking, I know it's not going to unfold. Simple. Anyway, see you soon. Drop in the comments if this is, you know, if you get those glimmers, if you get those moments where you resonate, or you get those moments where you're like, nope, absolutely not. Please feel free to chat in the, you know, to drop it in the comments. It would be really interesting for me to understand well, not to understand, it just interesting for me, because we are just so different, and we don't see it that way because we all try and fit into this mold of what Western society is, and but ultimately we are so different. Anyway, I am really rambling now. I'm gonna go and get some stuff done. So there's stuff that I need to do, this important kind of hustle stuff, you know, like cleaning the house and all that kind of jazz, but I'm going to do it in my woman energy. We're going to use this afternoon as a tool to really kind of grab some of that woman energy and see where it takes me. See you later.